Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Dr. Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to take your first steps towards explosive business growth, this podcast is for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Dr. Susie.
Welcome to this episode of Power Your Profit podcast. And if you're looking for high achievers, you're looking for a partner to help you run your business, and you're looking for talent, hold on to your seats because my next guest, Tina Forsyth, is a coach and a trainer of high achievers. And she helps leaders in our industry leave their mark on the world. She's the founder of the Association of Online Business Managers, the home of certified OBM training, and specializes in helping coaches, speakers, authors turn their IP into licensing or certification programs so that they can be seen as a leader in the industry and make money while they do it. So please welcome my guest, Tina Forsyth. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, Tina, that we finally get a chance to powwow. I know that I've been raving about you for years, probably about 7 years. I found you and found my first OBM. And so let's talk about your genius, your sweet spot, your love, your passion, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I love that we've been, like you were saying, Susie, even before we hopped on, that we've been connected for a while and I didn't even necessarily know it because you've worked with and hired some of our certified OBMs over the years. And I started the OBM certification. It's actually been 15 years ago now, which is kind of funny to think about. When I started that program years ago, the big why behind it really was twofold. Part of it was me wanting to shift what I was doing at the moment. I had been working as an online business manager for clients for many years before then, and I was personally ready for something a little different to do. And the other part of it was my number one value is empowerment. Like I wanted to help to create the same opportunities for others that I had been able to have for myself. As an online business manager, that's when my children were born. I had flexibility to work from home, able to make a living, doing the things that I was naturally good at. And I really wanted my own personal next level was really focused on how can I help empower others to do the same. And that's what led me down the path at that point of creating the OBM certification.
So let's talk about that, because I think certification is a lot like membership. People go, oh, create a certification and sit back and rake in the cash.
No. No. Oh, if only there was anything that was truly like that.
I know we grew the largest membership site in the beauty industry, and we were such early adopters. We started in 1999.
Oh, love it.
Crazy, right? And people are like, let's start a membership. I'm like, hold up. Let's talk about what that looks like. So let's talk about, why do you decide the certification? Was it outside of the freedom or versus just being inside of the...
Well, and it's funny because part of what I do now is help other people create their own certification and licensing programs too. And I'm very much in a space of like, okay, yes, it's certainly a little bit buzzwordy right now, and people are interested and excited about creating a certification. And I'm the first to say, like, it is not the model for everybody. And like anything, it really does require an investment of like time, energy, and effort up front to really, you can get to a point where there's freedom in it. There absolutely is. I've had my certification now has run pretty much without me. I would say with a few hours a week of my input and showing up since 2018 now. Okay. And that's when I brought in licensed trainer. So that was part of my own evolution too. So you can definitely get to a place where, yes, things can, your own time and energy may not be as required in there. But to your point too, Susie, it's not like it magically lands that way. I mean, the very first round of certification training that I did, I don't know if you're like this. I'm sure I know others maybe can relate to this, but I very much approached it from, first of all, I didn't know what the heck I was doing at all. I'm like, oh
Right.
yeah, certification. That sounds good. I mean, I had written my book, my Becoming an Online Business Manager book, and people wanted more from me. They were, in my mind, I wrote the book and I'm like, oh, here's the
Right.
book.
Yeah.
Go
Go
read the
do
book.
it.
You're good. Bye. Go be an OBM now.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was it. And people wanted more. And I'm not even sure where the concept of certification came from, but there was I could see two very direct paths or options at that moment, where it was either go the route of training and certification or go the route of building an OBM agency.
Yes.
And I had an agency before then. I love the agency model for other people. There's lots of
Right.
lots of great things about it. It's just not the best model for me. It wasn't the path that I wanted to take, where I would, build up my own team of OBMs and hire them out to clients and so on. That wasn't the path that I wanted to take. And again, because empowerment is my number one value, the certification model really is an empowerment model.
Right.
It's giving people the training, the tools, the support. It's giving them a full framework of here's how you can take and use this to create success for yourself too. And so that was very much a part of the why at the time. And of course, I learned leading up to that point too, I really learned that I love training.
Mm-hmm.
It was something I kind of fell into a little bit over the years, even as I was working as an OBM for my clients, different coaches and trainers and authors and such. I really came to realize that I loved the training and kind of playing that role with people
Right.
as well. So that was part of it.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge when somebody wants to start or create their own certification? Because they're, done for you, done
Yep.
with you, done for you, with you, and by yourself, right? And I see a
Yep.
lot of people trying to do it by themselves. And I've always been an advocate of, why are you going to try to figure it out the hard way? Go hire someone that's done it and
Yep.
proves the result, right? It can't be theory. Like, you've proven the
Yes.
result. You've had it for 14 years. It runs. I love that you don't even know me. So that's awesome. You have clients on both sides that you might not even know because you have an amazing team. So
Exactly.
that's a
Exactly.
business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think? What are the biggest challenges that you could share with us?
The bigger challenges, so it's definitely not a business model to make it up as you go.
Mhm.
There's too much at stake. I mean, there's certain other things we offer and do, and I've offered plenty of these over the years, where it's like, oh, let's just throw this out here and see what happens. Oh, let's give this a try. Oh, let's kind of throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And as a default, that's kind of how I'm wired, right? Like a bit of that visionary, let's move fast, let's throw it out there piece. But there's too much at risk with the certification model to do
Mhm.
that. So I definitely help people create certifications from scratch, but I also have a fair amount of clients that are like, oh no, I put this thing out here. People want it now. Like, but
Right.
yikes, I'm not quite sure, what they're getting or what they can do with it, or problems are starting to arise or whatever that is. I mean, the biggest thing with the certification model, the biggest risk is a reputation risk.
Right.
Because with certification, you're essentially saying, hey, I'm taking my stuff, my framework, my IP, my methodology, my brand, and I'm putting a check mark of approval on another person to say this person can do the work and show up and serve in the
Right.
way that, and based on the standards and such that are important to me. And if we don't do that well, if we're not thoughtful about all aspects of the certification, I have a 9-step process, a journey that I take people through when I work with them. If we're not purposeful and thoughtful about all of those steps, then
Yeah.
we could inadvertently, create a big mess on the
Yes.
back end, and a mess that has some very real consequences. Like if I just throw a regular training program or say like a membership or something out there and it doesn't really work out and I decide to shut it down, oh well, that
Right.
doesn't need to be that big of a deal. But if I've gone out there and I've certified a bunch of people and now they're out there doing work and maybe they're not doing it to my standards, or maybe they're messing something up or something's going on, and do I have any recourse? Do I like, there's so
Yes.
much about that. So the reputation piece is definitely a big consideration. And we want to be, when we design a certification well, and we are thoughtful at looking at all aspects of it, that reputation risk goes way, way, way down for sure. Right. When we're being purposeful about that. And if or when there is any kind of issues that come up, when you structure it properly, there's recourse around that. So you actually can, continue to protect your brand and your reputation. Another one is the time of it. So not most, everyone that I'll work with around creating their own certification. Part of the criteria to be ready to create a certification is you have your own proven IP, methodology, framework, whatever you want to call it, your own proven way of doing things, meaning it's yours, it's proprietary, it's something you've created and proven for at least 3 years. That's my own,
Criteria.
like stance that I take around that, where because from a certification perspective, like if I'm going to purchase a certification from somebody, I want to know not just that they made up something cool, but that it's actually been proven in their business or in their work, right? It needs to be validated. It needs to be proven. And so the folks that I work with, they're already busy.
Yes.
They're already busy is frankly the bigger hurdle of it, right? And so it can be very easy to say or to know, oh, yes, I want to go this path. I want to create a certification. But then, of course, like many other things, it's a matter of, okay, how can I make this happen in a way that's not going to take too much? Like if I'm already busy personally, then how can I make this happen? That's part of why I do the work I do too. I even just started, I've done consulting and strategy around certification for years now, and only just this past year have started working with people to help build their certifications too, so that it's not all just on their shoulders. But I would say part of that is looking through the lens of, hey, I really want to create a certification. I would love to do this. It's something I'm really, interested in, and I know I want to make it happen. To look through that lens of, okay, can I get help here? What would it look like to get help here? Because if we keep carrying that on our own shoulders, like, oh, I have to have the time now to go figure this whole thing out. It's like, okay, then that's when it doesn't happen.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all busy being busy. You're making money. Running the business.
Yeah. And like legitimately busy too, right? That's the thing. We are all busy. So it's not minimizing that by any means, but starting to look through that lens. Because, ultimately the certification model is, I also like to call it a share the wealth model, because it really is a model where it's no longer just on my shoulders to carry this thing, to be the only one out there delivering it, to be the only one out there doing it. I love the one-to-many models. I love, there's like membership is one-to-many, training programs, coaching groups, things like that are one-to-many. There's a lot of great value in those models. And that type of model is often still on my shoulders.
Yes.
Even if it's one-to-many, it's still, hey, if Tina's not showing up, like things aren't happening, right? If I'm not showing up for
to be
calls,
sick or go vacation, or you've got so much more planning that needs to occur.
Yeah.
What is your process? What is that 9-step process? Like in a high level?
So the 9-step process is the first piece that we really look at is the who of the certification. And so I always say too that the certification model is very much one of the bigger mistakes that people make is they don't clarify exactly who is a fit for this, right? So we look at who your ideal student profile is, because really there's no, like, we want to be super picky there.
Yes.
This is, again, the certification model is not a model where it's like, oh, hey, anybody who wants it, come on in.
Right.
Thing, because their success, like the ultimate measure of success of a certification is their success is
Yes.
our success, right? So if we have the wrong people coming in to the certification and they're not a fit up front for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how great your program is.
Right.
They're going to struggle, and then you're going to struggle, and then is the program really successful, right? So we want to get really clear on what's the ideal student profile, what are the licensing and permissions, like basically what are they getting, what can they do with it, what can they not do with it.
Right.
Because I will say another common mistake, I did this in the beginning of my of my OBM certification. I like to say I've made most of these mistakes, which is part of why I like to help other people
Yes.
through the journey. It's not a matter of give them everything you know about everything. Like my first OBM certification training, I was looking back on it recently and chuckling like it was 15 years ago now. And I was just like, ooh, it was like turning on a fire hose and ooh,
Yes.
let me give you everything I know about everything. And really, I mean, first of all, that's a whole lot of work on our
Yes.
end, but it's actually not effective. Like the best certifications are built around very specific things that people are allowed to do and not do specific
Right.
things with, right? So we want to be, and that's ultimately what the license portion is about, is what is it? What can people do with it? What is it about? We look at the pricing model. I have something I like to call the 10 times pricing model that we work through to make sure it's valuable, worth it for us to be
Yeah.
building this, and also valuable for the folks we're certifying as well. The structure of the program, what's the training format? There's adult best learning practices that really kick in as well. I will say with all the love in my heart, an online video and a Q&A call does not a certification program make.
Yes.
Those are not effective learning. That's not effective adult learning practices, especially for folks in a certification or licensing program. So we really look at like what is the best training format. We look at the curriculum design, meaning, once we know what they're getting and who is it for, it's like, then we can, okay, what exactly are they going to be learning? What am I going to be
Right.
teaching here? That piece, the testing process, certification requires a testing process, of course, in order for
Yeah.
them to earn that certification or that designation. And just as a quick side note there too, when people will ask me as well, like, hey, what's the difference between certification and licensing? The phrases will get used interchangeably in a lot of ways, but the main
Yes.
distinction is that certification takes it a step further and includes a testing process, right? And
Yes.
every certification includes a license. Like the license is just the piece of, here's what I'm giving you, here's what you can and can't do with it. And you
Right.
can sell that as a standalone too, right? Especially in the corporate and such, that's where a lot of people will go the licensing route, is into corporate or bigger companies and things like that. Whereas certification is more, okay, not only are you learning and getting a license and be able to use these things I'm giving you, but now you're going to pass the testing process so that I'm giving you my stamp of approval to
Yeah.
say you are now a certified ABC in some fashion. So, excuse me. So the testing process is really important to be purposeful with. We also want to look at the continuity and renewals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer that people should pay at least a yearly fee to maintain their certification with
Yeah.
you. Not everybody does this, but there's a couple of things around that are really important. The continuity and renewal of your certification is part of the maintaining the standards and the integrity of your program over time. Also, too, it's part of the business model.
Yes.
Because when I was mentioning earlier, like part of why I'm at the stage now with my OBM certification that I don't have to work as many hours in my business as I used to. A big part of that reason why is we have members who continue to pay an annual fee to
Right.
maintain their certification. Like it truly is, what is it? MRR is a big one right now,
Yes.
right? Like memberships and monthly recurring revenue and things like that. In our case, it's annual. They pay an
Right.
annual fee, annual recurring revenue, but there's people over time as more and more people come in and they're paying to continue with their certification, be a part of the community, get certain things. That will vary a bit from program to program. But there's a ton of value in that. Legal brand protection, we definitely have to have our legal ducks in a row. And of course, there's some great attorneys I work with and recommend for folks who are looking for that. I mean, we want to protect our trademarks, we want to copyright, we want the right agreements, we need all these things in place. Again, that's something I did not do in the early days. Do not launch a certification without.
You learn the hard way.
Exactly. I actually, knock on wood, didn't have to learn a super hard way, but I certainly had a moment of like, eek, yikes, what the heck was I thinking? Like, I had, my first group was 20 people that got certified. And it was like, there was no agreement with them. They could have gone out and done whatever the heck they wanted in any way, shape, or form. And I had no recourse around it. Like, I couldn't say boo. I mean, it ended up, we circled back, they signed later, et cetera. It was all good. Right. But we really want to cover our legal, butts, so to speak, with everything there. And then the measures of success is the final piece too, like looking through all lenses. How do we measure how good the certification program is doing? Right? Like, how are our students doing? How is it for us? How do we know if it's actually successful or not? We want to be really purposeful on how we're measuring that, and not have it be, it's not just like, oh, a bunch of students and I made a bunch of money kind of thing. Like, that can definitely be part of it, especially from our perspective, if we're creating a certification. But what does it look like to actually measure the success of the program?
You're listening to another episode of Power Your Profits podcast. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Are you tired of pouring resources into strategies that don't work? Say hello to Dr. Susie Carder, your future fractional COO. With Dr. Susie in your corner, your business can skyrocket to 7 figures and beyond. With a track record of creating thriving businesses, trust that you are in good hands. Head over to coo.poweryourprofits.com and let us put some magic into your business growth. Are you tired of struggling to take your business to the next level? Power Your Profits is the game-changing book you've been waiting for. Dr. Susie Carder, creator of the Predictable Success Method, reveals her proven strategies for explosive growth. From daily operations to marketing systems, this comprehensive guide empowers you to achieve predictable revenue and profit growth. Don't miss out on this invaluable wisdom. Transform your business today. Find your copy at books.poweryourprofits.com.
And is that what you say creates the great certification program, is their success?
Yeah, there's those pieces. Like, when I work with clients, we're looking at all of those 9 areas, in particular, to make sure that there's decisions being made, right? Like the whole strategy of it. Who is it for? What are they getting? What can they do with it? What can they not do with it, et cetera? All of that. And when we're really clear on these things, and we're building the program around, the best adult best learning practices, and we're really purposeful with the measures of success and supporting people and making sure that the program is giving people what they want. I mean, I'll give you one example too. This comes up with the clients I work with. Some people, say for example, with the OBM certification, we have people come into the program that some of them have an existing business already, like they've been working as a VA or some other way online. And more folks nowadays, I would say actually more than half now, are coming straight from corporate. So they've never owned a business before. They don't know how to go get clients. They don't understand any of that stuff. And if I'm looking through the lens of, oh, hey, are we giving our folks what they need to be successful? That means that our certification program needs to include some business building stuff, right? Like, how do you have a sales conversation? How do you go get clients? What does that look like? Again, the first time I offered my certification back in 2009, I personally, when I was working as a one-on-one OBM, I didn't have trouble finding clients. Like, I just kind of found them, right? Like referral, word of mouth, whatever it was. Like, I wasn't having to kind of go out and market and sell and anything like that in some big way. And so when I offered that first certification, again, I kind of gave them everything I knew about everything. But then we didn't talk about, how do you go get clients now?
Right.
And
And is that
so,
a different level of the certification, or do you have a little piece of that in the?
well, we added it in with that,
Yeah.
right? Because what happened with that first group too, I remember checking in, hey, how's it going? They're just like, some of them, some were fine, right? But there was a chunk of them that were like, well, I don't even know how to go get a client. I was
Right.
like, oh, like, so if I'm looking, and of course, since then, we've included that in the
Yeah.
program, right? And so if I'm looking through the lens of, okay, if their success is my success, it doesn't mean I'm having to take full ownership of their success. It's
Right.
kind of like we each have our part in this. But if I'm looking through the lens of, am I giving everybody what they need to
Right.
be able to go out and be successful with what it is they're learning and what they're becoming certified in? I know some people will say, like, oh my gosh, Tina, I really don't want to teach people how to go get clients. I don't want to teach people how to sell. I just don't want to teach people that part.
Right.
And my response is, that's fine. But that means then on the front end, they need to come in the door already knowing how to do those things.
Right.
Because if they're coming in the door brand spanking new, never having done this before, starting from scratch with the business, and you don't want to teach them that on the other end, then it's kind of a disservice
Yes.
in a way, right? So, there's various aspects of looking at the whole thing holistically, right? Like, oh, knowing this, okay, what do we need to do here? And knowing that and all of that too. But yeah, ultimately, like their success is our success with the program. And if it's not done well, that gets around too, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. So how long should be? I don't know if there is a should, right?
Yeah.
There's too long and then
Yeah.
there's too short. What's the ideal sweet spot when you're putting together a certification program? Is it a year, 6 months?
Do you mean between like thinking yes and getting started, or do you mean A to Z completing it?
Well, I mean, if we're going to certify someone, you go, okay, I'm going to take this content. So it'd be step two. Step one is working with you to put it together. And then
Yeah.
what's the ideal time frame for a student that they don't get disinterested, they don't get like sparkle squirrel, to keep them engaged? How long is the
Oh,
certification program?
yeah, the actual training itself. I mean, that can really vary. Like usually it's not less than 90 days. And that could be different if it's something like super short, sweet, and simple. It might even be less than that. 90 days to 6 months, up to a year or more. I know people that will have 1 or 2 year
Yeah.
certification programs. And here's the thing that's interesting too about certifications compared to um, other types of training programs or coaching programs, right? I call it a bit of an identity sale, which is different than, it's very different than, say, when I'm selling like a coaching program or
Mm-hmm.
just a regular training program of some kind. In that case, I really have to, here's what's in it for you. Here's what you're going to get. Here's what's, it's almost like it's harder in a
Yeah.
lot of ways to do that. How do I keep them interested? How do we keep them engaged? All of those things. Because you're also competing with so much of everything else that's going on out there. Whereas a certification, when people are coming into our OBM certification, it's because they want to be an online business manager.
Right.
So when they're coming in, it's like an identity sale. Like, hey, yeah, I want to be this. I really want to be this. I want to do this. I want to put myself out in the world in this way. And so it's very different in the sense of, of course, we've learned over the years better ways to do the training and run the program and support people. Absolutely. We've made improvements on that over the years as we've learned. But it's not the same where you like have a whole bunch of attrition and a bunch of people drop off and they just don't finish and so on.
Right.
Like a little bit of that happens for sure, but
Yeah.
way, way less than what happens with other types of programs because people are in there for different reasons. It's like, oh, instead of me going out and trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing in the world, what my offers are going to be, how I want to serve clients, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, etc. A certification program it's almost like a business in a box sort
Yes.
of version of like, hey, here's exactly what you need to know, how to package it, how to work with people. It's giving people a very simple way to literally take what it is you're giving them and turn around and create their own livelihood
Right.
from, yeah. So yeah, I would say 6 months to a year is probably the average
Yeah.
length of program out there. And it could certainly be more with more
Right.
comprehensive programs, or like you had mentioned as well too, Susie, like there could be a level 1, there could be a level 2, there can be different ways to structure things as well from that perspective.
And then when someone hires you, Tina, to go, because what you hear, what I'm hearing in this, and I've done both, right? We've done licensing, we've done certification, we've done too
Yep.
much. We gave the kitchen sink. We didn't have our agreements down. Like I didn't know that I didn't know that I didn't even know, right? So it's like if
Yes.
I didn't know you did this as well, which is delicious, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to teach you that, but there's a lot of mistakes you make. And like you said, they're expensive, right? Because we
Yes.
had people get certified and then they didn't want to pay the renewal, but then they were creating still using content. It's
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute. Like
Yes,
our
exactly. You have
content.
to have recourse, you have to have agreement, you have to have all that stuff in place for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, you
Yeah.
don't even know that you don't know until you're in it and you're like, do I sue this person? Is that worth it? Like, what did I learn through that? So when they're
Yeah.
working with you and to help you create, what's their investment that they would work with you to do this? Does it vary, or is it pretty much when we walk you through teaching you how to build your own certification, it's this
Yeah.
fee?
Yeah, the first piece of it is the strategy piece
Mm-hmm.
of looking at and figuring out what all those 9 steps are going to look like
Yep.
for the person. So that's 8,000 for that. That's in like a VIP day kind of
Okay.
format, all virtual. I'm like
Yep.
a very much a virtual person. So that first piece really is like, what is it? And then the helping them build the certification. Because what my goal with that first piece is for you to walk out and be like, okay, now it's basically like it's ready to sell. That doesn't mean you're going to sell it tomorrow, but it's like, okay, I know what it is. I know who it's for. I know what they're getting, what they're not getting. I know what the testing is going to be. I know the format, the structure. Like I know all these things. All those decisions are made. And so there's still work to be done after that,
Yes.
but the clarity is there with everything. And then some of the folks I work with, there's a couple of things that come into play. So if they already have a team and a lot of support on their team, then it can be a matter of, all right, dear team, turning this over to you and away we go, right?
Yes.
And or even if they have a team or they who's already busy with other things, or they don't have a team that can help them with this piece, that's part of where we can look at continuing to work together to help build out the certification. It also depends a little bit on how much of their curriculum is
Mm-hmm.
already developed. So in some cases, it's a matter of, I mean, we want to have our IP and our proven IP and we know it works and we've been doing it and all of that. But sometimes taking that into a format of like, this is how I'm going to train and certify people.
Yes, it's
Like
a different model. It's not,
it's,
you can't just give it how you were teaching.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't. I
it's
mean, it
got a
seems like
different
it would be, but
spin.
you can't. It doesn't translate the same.
No, it doesn't translate the same. And sometimes again, depending on how much material there is already, it can be a little bit of like massage, tweak, and it's ready to go. Or sometimes there is quite a bit of building and developing the curriculum up from scratch. So that'll make a little bit of a difference there too. But when I work with people on that side, it's like 25,000 and up, depending
Yeah.
on what they're looking for and what the program's going to be and timelines and all of that fun
Which
stuff. Yeah.
still, when you look at it, right, because people go, oh, that's expensive. Is it? When I think about what that first lawsuit costs, right? What you
Oh,
don't that you don't know,
yeah.
right? And
Oh,
what's
yeah.
platform you should build it on. That stuff is gold. And
Well, and even just looking, I mean, like I would say this with any type of investment, right? It's like, what is the ROI? You know, if
mhm,
you're, and of course, it's easy for me to say because I love the certification model. It's easy for me to like tap my toes and be like, all right, let's get going now. Let's
right,
not
right.
wait, you know. But especially right now, like you and I are talking in almost May, I guess, pretty
Yes.
close to May at this point. Like, you know, like halfway-ish through the year, it's like if anybody's wanting to launch their certification for next year, like we need to be doing this work now to
Yes.
get this stuff figured out and to also really feel into like what's possible here. Because again, just part of my own journey, I started the certification back in 2009. You know, I directly delivered the training and all of that for years, right? So delivered the training personally, me and my team, you know, we did the testing, we did whatever. In my case, we also have an association, our certified OBM association, which, you know, by no means does everybody need to create an association. I would say most people do not need to create an association, but we did that for part of like, that's the home of the certified OBM. And that's where business owners can connect with and
Yes.
find certified OBMs. And that's our continuity and all of that on that side, right? So for years, it was me doing the training directly and, and marketing the training and all of that. And frankly, I hit a point about 2016, 2017, where I just got a little sick and tired of it. Right.
Yes.
And it was an interesting dilemma. I feel like we don't always talk about this, right? Because it was like, on one hand, here's this great business, things are going well, making money, all is good. But then there was a part of me that's like, yeah, but I'm sick and tired of delivering this training
Yes.
program.
It's real.
Oh,
We're
no,
at the foundation. We're entrepreneurs. It's like, you can't
yes.
believe that now. What's next?
Yeah. And that was a very real thing. And so I wasn't even thinking this at the time, but I had a couple of people from within my community reach out and they were like, Tina, I would like to be licensed to teach this program. And then it was like, ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
So we had starting in 2017 and 2018, they started offering, I had three, still have three, a couple of different threes, but three licensed trainers now. So they teach the training at this point, right? They go out and do the marketing. They bring in their own clients. They teach the training. It's a license agreement. So me and the association get like a chunk of any student that comes in the door. And it's been amazing because it freed me up to not, frankly, it freed me up to start helping people create their own certifications, right? Which is one of my favorite things to do. But it really freed me up at that point to be like, hey, this is kind of that living the dream thing that we talk about, right? Where it was just because of like the time and energy and effort and investment and being purposeful with the model and all kinds of things, truly creating something that did not require me to be 100% plugged in all the time anymore. And that really is something that can happen with the certification. Like anytime I'm working, one of the clients I'm working with right now, we're working on building her certification too. We started with the strategy. We're building her certification together now. And that's very much with an eye towards, okay, yes, the first round of the program, she's going to be very involved in the teaching and the testing. But even the second round already, we're starting to pull her a little bit out of that.
Yes.
Based on an existing team and other people she has that can step in and so on, right? And so it really is a model where you can, it's a model where you don't have to be the hub of it anymore. And I love the coaching world. I love the training world. I've been a part of this world for a long, long, long time. But there is so much about even when we are that expert and that coach or that trainer or that author or whatever, that it still lands solely on our shoulders as a person. And so I think from that perspective of the when question, looking through the lens of ROI, like what would make it worthwhile for me to create a certification program, not just in whatever money they might pay me to help them. I mean, that's part of it, but even like, okay, it is some time and energy and all of that to bring it to life. What would make it worthwhile? But also looking at the longevity of it. Like, what would it mean to have as more people become certified? Maybe you just offer it once a year. Every year, there's more people that come in. They continue to pay their renewals. They continue to whatever they, over time, you can really build something that's pretty powerful that way.
I love it. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. And what I will say about Tina's business is, for the last 7 years, we've been using the OBM association, finding people. And I would say it's the first time I've been doing this for 30 years. And the first time in 30 years that it was such a hard time, such an easy time to fill that position, right? Finding someone that had diverse talent that could be the jack of all trades, and the master of many, right? Usually you find a jack of all trades, but they're not really good at any one particular thing. And I remember the first time coming to you, it was like, I can't choose. I've never had that challenge before. Like, how do I choose? They're all so great. So that's testament to the program that you put together. And so if you're interested, definitely go to Tina's website, right? So that you can really see. And if you want to create your own certification program, I have the links in the show notes. She has an amazing podcast. I'll have that in the show notes as well. And Ready, Set, Certify on her website, I'll put that link in there, that you can go get certified and see if you're ready, right? To at least have the strategy day to get ready to really leverage your expertise and monetize your intellectual property. So Tina, any last words you want to say for us?
Yeah, just to, really honor those of us who've been doing this for a while, and we've created something amazing and we know that it works because we've been living and breathing it and proving it. It's to first and foremost like pat ourselves on the back about that, because that's not everybody's journey. But also too, a little, maybe a little cheeky or bold to say it this way, but I really believe when we've created something that we know works, it should live beyond us.
Yeah.
Right. It really should. Like, it's almost a bit of a disservice in some ways to not look through the lens of, hey, how can this amazing thing that I've created live beyond me while still continuing to serve me?
Exactly.
And what I want and such for myself too. So even just to kind of think through that lens a little bit, because like we were saying already, we're all busy. We're all like head down, butts up, and all of this day to day, that sometimes we don't really pause and think about, what have I really created here? And like, what if this could be brought out into the world in different ways as well?
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. And if this podcast has made a difference for you, please share. Please share this podcast with somebody who needs this information, and you've watched this, you've listened to this. So I am your host, Susie Carder, and my guest, Tina, who is the OBM guru. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise, and look forward to playing some more together.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at www.poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game. So be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.